For a dish with the name butter in its name, is it possible to make a lower calorie version that still tastes good? I made a version with 46% fewer calories per serving, so we can answer that in episode 7 of the lower calorie series. Hey everyone, I'm Ethan, a home cooking nerd who likes to find better ways to cook and share them with all of you. So I love Indian food and can't wait to start cooking, so we're just gonna do the damn thing. Everything is timestamped down below if you wanna jump around to various sections, but let's make some butter chicken and I'll meet you right back here for the taste test. First, let's make the restaurant style version to establish a baseline of calories and understand how it's made. So classic butter chicken has just two components, marinated chicken pieces and the sauce or gravy. For the marinated chicken, boneless skinless chicken thighs are mixed with red chili powder, ground cumin, garam masala powder, minced or crushed garlic, minced or crushed ginger, salt, lime juice, and a little bit of yogurt. This is then mixed up and then just left to sit for 15 to 20 minutes. Then when ready, it is cooked over high heat to develop some nice brown bits and then set aside while the sauce is being made. For the gravy, butter is melted in a pan and then diced onion is fried before adding chopped tomatoes, cashews, ginger, garlic, garam masala, red chili powder, maybe some turmeric for color, and a sprinkle of salt. Everything is just cooked down before adding some water to thin it out. That sauce is then blended smooth and strained back into the pan to remove any impurities like the skins and seeds from the vegetables. While the sauce is on low heat, more butter is added along with heavy cream, the chicken, and some kasuri methi or fenugreek leaves. This sauce is simmered to slightly thicken before serving. Now, in my opinion, the most important techniques to make this dish restaurant style but at home is number one, using enough salt in both the chicken seasoning and the sauce to bring out the flavors of the spices and aromatics. Undersalting is what dooms many home-cooked foods, and also don't forget the fenugreek leaves at the end. For me, it's what gives the dish that signature restaurant flavor. As far as the texture goes, straining the sauce may seem like an extraneous step, but this creates a homogeneous sauce that emulsifies very easily with the butter, cream, and cashews. Speaking of the butter and the cream, these components provide the velvety texture that is synonymous with butter chicken, but are also very high in calories. The crux of the matter becomes then, is it possible to make a lower calorie version taste good while substituting or using significantly less butter, cashews, and cream? Let's break it down. For a 280 gram or about 10 ounce serving of the restaurant style version, it comes in at 834 calories, 27 grams of carbs, 64 grams of fat, and 38 grams of protein. Now, if you serve it with a cup or about 250 grams of cooked rice, this is going to add an extra 205 calories for a total of 1,034. If we take a look at the top 4 caloric ingredients, as you can guess, it's number 1, the cooking fats, then the chicken thighs, the cashews, and the heavy cream, so this is where we'll focus our substitutions. First up, I'll be using low-fat evaporated milk instead of heavy cream. For a 280 gram serving, this results in 56 fewer calories. And we've seen how evaporated milk works with stovetop mac and cheese because it has protein micelles that help emulsify and keep the sauce smooth. Using it in our gravy should help replicate the textural qualities of cream, except with 75% fewer calories per 15 grams. So this one could really be a win-win. Second, I'll be using 15 grams of peanut butter instead of 50 grams of whole cashews, resulting in 97 fewer calories per serving. Now, the cashews are pretty important in providing the nuttiness, fattiness, and kind of changing the color, so it'll be interesting to see how the peanut butter stacks up. For convenience sake though, I think most of us probably have peanut butter in the pantry, so this could be another one to take into consideration. Third, I'll be using less cooking fat for cooking the chicken and the sauce. Specifically, I'll forego the oil used to cook the chicken pieces. Instead, I'll rely on the yogurt marinade and a well-seasoned cast iron to generate that browning. For the sauce, I'll skip adding butter to cook the vegetables down and instead just use some cooking spray. I will still add the butter to the sauce after it is done cooking and being strained to ensure we get that buttery flavor. I mean, it is butter chicken. Collectively, these two changes result in 160 fewer calories per serving. Then lastly, a pretty obvious substitution is just using chicken breast instead of chicken thighs, and this leads to 73 fewer calories as chicken breast has much less fat. So friends, we have the substitutions. Let's do the step-by-step recipe and then the taste test. To start, I ground a bunch of fresh garlic cloves in my mortar and pestle to make garlic paste, and I also did the same with my ginger. Ginger and garlic paste are staples in Indian cooking, but you could also just finely mince them if you want. This paste is used in both the chicken marinade and the sauce. For the chicken, chop the chicken breast into roughly 1-inch cubes or whatever your preferred shape is. Then add the chunks to a bowl with 2 grams of chili powder, 2 grams of ground cumin, 2 grams of garam masala powder, 4 grams of salt, about a clove or 2 of garlic paste, ginger paste, the juice from 1/2 of a lime, and 30 grams of yogurt. Mix this to combine and then spread the spices around, and then set this aside for 15 minutes to let marinate. While you're waiting, you can prepare the remaining ingredients like roughly chopping the onions and the tomatoes, as well as measuring out the evaporated milk. When ready to cook, set a cast iron on medium-high heat and sear the pieces until they have some nice brown edges and are just cooked through. Then remove the chicken to a bowl and set them aside. I like to add everything that I need on this large sheet pan for our mise en place, and let's get saucy. For the gravy, set a pan over medium heat and add a little cooking spray. Add the onions and just saute for about a minute or two, then follow with the chopped tomatoes, 15 grams of peanut butter, a spoonful of garlic paste, ginger paste, half spoonful of garam masala, a full spoonful of chili powder, a small pinch of salt, and a sprinkle of turmeric, primarily to give the sauce a little bit more vibrant color. Let this cook down for about 5 or so minutes, stirring occasionally to let those flavors get to know each other. Then add some water and stir to combine, which will thin out our sauce for blending. Pour the hot sauce into a food processor and pulse it until it is completely smooth. Now, if you don't mind a chunkier texture, you could always just leave the sauce as is, but this is one of those dishes where I think it's well worth it. Now back at the stove, pour and push the sauce through a metal strainer to get rid of all those seeds and little vegetable skins that may kind of interrupt the sauce consistency. Then you're going to turn the heat on low and just add the butter, the evaporated milk, and the cooked chicken. You want to just stir the sauce and let it simmer until it slightly thickens for about 6 to 8 minutes. And for a little pro cleaning tip, while the sauce is simmering, wash your food processor or your blender right away because the sauce can sometimes slightly stain the plastic. Lastly, add the kasur methi or fenugreek leaves to a pan and lightly toast them. Then place the leaves in between your hands and rub them together to crush it over top. Fenugreek leaves are one of those critical spices to really give it that restaurant taste. And then last, but probably most important, make sure you taste the sauce and use your senses. If the flavors feel lacking, add a touch of salt. If it feels too acidic, add some sugar, or if you want, just add more garam masala and chili powder. Before we do the taste test, let's look at the calorie breakdown. So for one 280 gram, or again about 10 ounce serving of the lower calorie version, it comes in at 448 calories, 27 grams of carbs, 18 grams of fat, and 55 grams of protein. So a little bit more anabolic than the restaurant style version. Again, if you serve it with a cup or 250 grams of cooked rice, it adds on 205 calories for a total of 653. Let's see how they stack up to each other in a taste test. All right, everybody, so it is taste test time. I have the restaurant style version here on my right. I have the lower cal version here on my left. And right away in the actual textures, this one is a little bit more creamy, which I kind of expected because of the extra cashews in there. And then it's also lighter in appearance. I mean, you can see this pretty easily in the differences there. Like this one is much lighter because of all those cashews, and then this one is a little bit darker because it doesn't have those cashews, and the peanuts kind of, replicated the similar color to this. They're not very light like cashews. But anyway, let's give them a test. We'll do it without rice first. If you would tell me that this one has, well, I think it's like 400 some less calories than this one, I'd probably tell you that you're lying. But since I did it, I know I'm not lying, but they're very, very close in taste and textures. This one is a little bit more thinner, not quite as velvety as this one with the butter and the cashews in there, but both of these remind me well, obviously this one's, it's classic, but this reminds me exactly of what I would want from, getting like a classic butter chicken. It takes me right back to many countless nights that I spent ordering takeout to my hotel room when I worked in consulting. And this has all those components that I love, the spices, the chicken chunks, but it just comes in at much lower calorie, which is, a great alternative if that's what route you are going. Now, this one is better. Like, I'm not gonna say it's not better, but they're very, very close. Like, this is probably one of the closest I've done so far of the lower calorie series. I mean, all those flavors are right there, and that's really what brings these two dishes together. And then really it's just kind of the velvetyness of the sauce. It's not quite the same. Obviously we used like half the amount of butter. And then we used heavy cream instead of evaporated milk. So I'd actually be interested to see maybe what evaporated milk with the same amount of butter looks like and with the cashews, because maybe that's something to just, you can implement, lose a little bit of calories by just doing the evaporated milk for heavy cream mix. But since I kind of went multiple on this one, I'm not sure exactly how specific those components actually make a difference. But whichever one you make, they're both gonna be absolutely delicious. Again, the big keys for me are this one, are straining out that sauce, making sure you're getting a nice, smooth and velvety sauce, and then making sure you really do salt it and learn, how to taste at the end, because many dishes like this fall flat when we make them in the home. Because, we're not really thinking about our salt, and then we get the sauce and like, oh, I thought there was all these spices and stuff. It should taste more flavorful, and it doesn't because there's not enough salt in it. So keep that in mind when you are cooking this. And I mean, you guys are gonna absolutely love either of these dishes if you try them. That's gonna wrap it up for me. Both recipes will be up on the website if you wanna make them. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Yeah, it's just like a little thinner.
Yeah, but like the taste is right there. It's just like that sauce consistency is a little bit different.